Welcome everybody to the Orange Wheel podcast, the podcast where we support business leaders in understanding Bitcoin and the monetary transition. I'm joined today by Peter Rochel. Peter and I have had the opportunity to meet through a mutual friend a few weeks ago and had discovered kind of a strong common interest in a variety of topics, including Bitcoin, Bitcoin mining, innovation, environmentalism. So I'm really excited to have a deeper discussion today with Peter. How are you doing today?
Pretty good, thank you.
Where are you joining us from?
I'm sitting in Cologne, center of Western Germany. The feel-good capital of Germany, as the Cologne people say. But I'm not born here. I live here for 15 years now.
It's a beautiful city with the Kölner Dome is a really iconic structure, right? I had the chance when I was working as a consultant. I stayed for a few months actually at a hotel just on the Rhine River, kind of over from the old center.
It's to me, as I'm a foreigner here as well, when I first came to Cologne, it's such an impressive building. I mean, it's like you go there and it's so impressively huge and majestic. Oh, I don't know. It's hard to explain.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, I think it might have been the tallest structure in the world for a period of time.
Yeah, for a couple of years, yes.
Yeah, very cool. Amazing. So, Peter, it'd be great to hear a little bit about your background. From what I understand, it's really seeped in a focus on innovation. So it'd be great to hear your background in innovation and what sparked that led you towards combining innovation with Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's all kind of woven together. First, I was once living in Spain for 15 years. Basically, there I started a advertising company as a absolute noob. I had no idea about that business. People said, you're talented, you've done this and that, and you should do that. Let's do that together. And so I started with that. And over that, I started I grow an interest in understanding how things work. Basically, when someone came around and asked for a billboard ad or something like that, I didn't know how that business worked. I was just asking them, why do you want that? What are you hoping for it's going to do for you? So I could understand better what to deliver without being a professional first, taking this kind of naive point of view, such as a 6-year-old child. And so a couple of years later, I felt kind of into the business of renewable energies, like running my advertising company or creative agency. I've been asked, I run the consultant part of that. My ex-wife had the creative part. And so people came around and telling me about their business ideas. Hey, Peter, I have this idea and I have that idea. What do you think about? And wouldn't we do that together? And so came one involved into the business of renewables, like being assistants of the chair in a German-based company that built the first huge wind parks in the Nordics and northern Germany. And they heard about a new law in Spain that obliged basically anyone who builds any building to include thermal solar energy for heat generation. So, and they were basically producing thermal solar panels and were asking for contacts into the Spanish building branch. And I said, yeah, I can do some contacts and let's see. We made some meetings and the Spaniards weren't really interested in getting into that business, providing to that market and adopting it. So me and my business partners, we did our own market research and found that it was basically what was prescribed by government as a demand was 5 times what the whole market at any point of the value chain would be capable to deliver. And we said, okay, that's a no-brainer. We do that. We have here exclusive touch to German quality providers and they will need it. So let's do it. So I get into that. And by that, again, having no doubt about that market, I had to figure out how to sell that stuff and it worked out well. And over that, I stumbled over Clayton Christensen's books of disruptive innovation, which was The Innovator's Dilemma and The Innovator's Solution. If you're into the field of innovation, you will know who that is. And he's basically the Pope of innovation, or has been. Unfortunately died in 2020. So I came in touch with the jobs to be done theory that basically explains why and under what circumstances a person is changing behavior or buying or choosing one product over another, and what's the real choice from the customer perspective. And that's basically the base layer of market creating or disruptive innovation. Because if you're capable to understand that and to find that out, this theory predicts what's going to happen next and how markets will change, how business model designs probably going to be affected and stuff like that. So as everybody talked about that, I really got nerdy on that and fell into that rabbit hole and figured out how that really works and built a proper framework, which I'm working on since the year of 2006 already. And we set up a proper framework for research and market creating innovation based on that theory part. And so being still in the field of renewables, coming back to Germany, I decided to start a consultancy on, let's say, a holistic business development, all centered around customer needs. Like from my point of view, the customer is probably the most important person in the world because it's the only person that brings money into a company and leaves it there while anybody else is taking it out one day or another. It doesn't matter if it's VCs, if it's founders or workers or whoever. So if you don't understand what causes a customer to bring in his money, you don't have to care about feel-good management in your company and how to get staff and then talents and anything else. Yeah, so being still then connected with the field of energy, I was chairman of the supervising board in a energy company that specialized in the sector coupling, like combining energy production like PV power with heat and with mobility. We've been probably, I think we've been the first company that combined those sectors, at least in the German-speaking world. Running my innovation agency and consultancy, I have heard of Bitcoin sometimes, but I think in 2017, something like that, I got deeper into that and I started reading about that technology. If you remember, that was the blockchain technology time, and I wanted to understand. And what the first thing I understood was that Bitcoin mining is a technology that is capable to take any load of electric energy with no financial losses, the opposite. And as I knew from the field of working into renewables, I understood as well that that is kind of the missing link, the key that helps us farming that basically free of charge energy. The sun doesn't write any bills or doesn't send a bill. Same as wind. I mean, wind power and solar power is the cheapest source of energy we have now worldwide. Whole costs below 3 euro cents or dollar cents, basically, or even lower, depending on where, but here in Germany. And you can't harness that without dealing this duck curve problem, which means like production is not always at the same time when you have demand, and that needs to be leveled or at least managed. So I felt Bitcoin could be the missing link, and it definitely is, as I know from today's. That's how I came to Bitcoin. I've never any interested into that how money works thing that came later on via some projects with clients, nothing to do with Bitcoin, but with prophecy and stuff like that. Yeah, so that's basically my history, and I really got early in touch with the German Bitcoin speaking and then published a open jobs to be done study on how mass adoption works, because it's the perfect example to me in real time to observe in real time how a disruptive or so-called market creating innovation by the definition of Clayton Christensen really works. Like nobody sees it until it's basically too late, and it's always hard to be above the curve. Not behind the curve. So and that really helps. So that give me some tiny popularity in the German speaking Bitcoin world. I really focused on this Bitcoin business adoption because I'm a B2B guy basically, and so we really focused on and early, what causes a business leader to adopt Bitcoin technology to their company? As we definitely know, this is a game-changing, disruptive technology that comes around the corner like a Trojan horse. Basically, you look at it and you don't understand it. It looks like a shady, shabby, crappy thing, like where a couple of computer nerds are fizzling around with their Raspberry Pi mini computers, and you don't really understand what it's doing. I'm gonna share some slides. I have a nice one here of that. I don't know if this is right here. Look, we made this picture. It's looking a little bit like that. And if you so understand how this disruption works, it's like you always got hit by it when it's too late if you're into a established branch or business. If you're leading a market, it's like you're probably the last one to understand that things. And that's basically the same what Michael Saylor said in summer at the Bitcoin Corporate Day in Prague. He said probably well run companies will be the last who adopt it, and that's basically the same. If you remember, I don't know, maybe some of those logotypes may sound familiar. It's all been market leaders being disrupted by new technologies, and that's the same as what happens with Bitcoin.
Although Nokia's making a bit of a comeback these days, I've been told.
Yeah, but ages. I mean, 20 years later. When was it? 2007, Steve Jobs introduced the new iPhone. That you have this Nokia communicator, and before they have been producing rubber boots, isn't it? I mean, here in the Nordics, but they were famous for rubber boots. They survived that by mobile phones, and now it's yeah.
That's of how much they've been able to adapt and change, right? And
Yeah, and that's how I came to this. I don't and to me to get this Bitcoin is kind of a hyper disruptive base technology. As when we think of disruptive technologies, we're basically thinking about artificial intelligence, about internet, IoT, cloud computing, 3D printing. Clean disruption is all this energy revolution with the kilowatt hour solar generated electricity costs 3 cents basically, and the conservative produced kilowatt hour costs around 8 to 9 cents, at least in the German speaking world here, or even higher. And that's what we have in sight when we think of disruptive technologies. Now it's the AI times. But if you think about Bitcoin puts into it kind of a new layer that connects all the others on a value layer together, which is internet native with no oracle. And that's a complete new world. No one can foresee how those markets will look like in 10 years. It's the same as in the 1900s when Henry Ford figured out how to produce automobiles for $1,000 each. And no one have thought of an road infrastructure, mechanic workshops, gasolines, and all this wasn't not to be. No one really could predict that that's gonna happen, and creating complete new branches and new industries and such. The same thing will happen, and it is already happening within Bitcoin. And so the question is, how will you be affected in your branch as if you're an established business, and in what way will it affect your business model design? And you have to be prepared, I think, at least, because if someone else is doing it from your direct competitors, you're going to lose that game.
Totally. Lots of great stuff there, Peter. I mean, it's great kind of covering certainly a few reflections from my side early on here. It's like, I think in 2017, recognizing that Bitcoin could have a positive influence on renewable energy systems, I think that was a little bit of quite early compared to most people, I think, right? I remember reading in 2021 from Shelling Araka, the chairman of Aker, also when they were starting their own kind of explorations to Bitcoin. He released the shareholder letter, which discussed this vision as well, right? But I think the vast majority of people at that time, especially, were still thinking, "Oh, Bitcoin's boiling the oceans. It's going to use all of the fossil fuels in the world. It's an environmental catastrophe." So certainly seeing that early on, seeing the potential, and I think it's gradually the narrative is changing and seeing it your way, I find.
I mean, we have to take into account that energy and all these environmental implication stuff, that's really complex stuff. And we have many opinions around, even in the political world. There are very few really understanding the topics. As I had to dig myself and to build my knowledge into that field, because I had to make a living of it. Probably I had an advantage to grasp this implications a little bit earlier. I mean, 2017 isn't really early in the Bitcoin space. I mean, it's from today. It's always earlier than today is always good, but it's not been 2008 or 2009. Yes. Then, even though the sweet spot is really sector coupling, like now. As I said before, what I've been working on with PV energy generation, basically, and solar thermal heat generation, combining it in private and business buildings for generating heat, reducing energy supply costs, and giving more autarky or independency to it being less independent, less dependent from energy markets and pricing and so on. We combined it with EVs and mobility, which is really a game changer, was then. And now we can combine that even with computing, high performance computing applications, having they produce a lot of waste heat. And they have high costs to cool those systems down. And as we have a look at Bitcoin, how it's used today, you can use it as a strategic financial instrument. That's a no-brainer, basically, what Michael Saylor and Strategy B do. You can use it as a payment rail. You can use it as a market opener, like being the first Bitcoin hodl, the first Bitcoin whatsoever, where you can pay with Bitcoin. Maybe you could reach there. That's interesting. You could use it as a heat generator and so on. And so you can combine that with computing power. We had this issue, as I was still the chairman of the board in this solar and energy company here in the region. There we have this is an indoor ski resort here in the center, in the middle of Germany. That was up and running for 20 years, and they had to renew it with their energy infrastructure. And so we planned that with PV power and heat pumps and so on. Why? Because it's cheaper as heating it up with gas and running it. So, and there is a high performance as a data center close to it from E.ON, which is a huge energy provider in Germany. And we couldn't use that heat because we could not control it. So, and the distances were not really in the sweet spot and so on. And if at that time I would have had already Bitcoin as a key resource to make this waste heat usable for heating that huge building, that would have been even more profitable at lowering operating costs of that huge operations there. Yeah.
Very cool. So maybe this is an interesting, just kind of, hopefully it's not a non sequitur, but it would be great to understand your one of your current roles right now is leading up UTXO Solutions. So it'd be great to hear a little bit about that company's like mission and how you help companies in that capacity.
Yeah. So with UTXO Solutions, I combined. I combined what we have in this innovation consultancy, and combined that with the market of Bitcoin companies. Bitcoin, you can ask, what is a Bitcoin company? To me, it's a company that uses Bitcoin in any established branch, or is building a company based on Bitcoin technologies. Maybe you can see that there. And so what we do is we help as a strategic management consultancies to help the Bitcoin businesses to develop their businesses, find product market fit quicker and faster with our innovation frameworks. That really works out for young startups and scalables in the same way as for established companies. But Bitcoin companies, as from our studies and research, have slightly higher failure rates as usual startups, even a little bit worse as usual tech startups. Why is that? Because they are so in love with Bitcoin that at times leads to kind of blindness. So they have more blind spots as others at times. But anyhow, so that's the Bitcoin part for Bitcoin companies. And on the other hand, we help established businesses and branches to understand Bitcoin technology earlier. And so there we are kind of architects for such solutions. I mean, there are now players in the market that could deliver some solutions for industries. Like there are ones that can deliver mining rigs. Some can provide. Oh, sorry, I'm so sorry. I cannot attend this call. And some can deliver education on Bitcoin and so on. But if it comes to real world demands, like for example, right now we have a waste incineration operator, or what's that? A waste incinerator, and they have some real world challenges with their business model designs, and Bitcoiners may know that a Bitcoin mining rig could help them to sell their excess electrical energy at a higher price point as it's done today. But what's really missing is the practical experience and how to combine that with district heating, with grid balancing or flex power loads, and so on. So that's basically our part. We bring the people together. We help those to evaluate the feasibility of it, and then at that point we advise all the players and bring them together to build one solution. And for sure, dreaming of innovating such as that maybe in 2-3 years we have turnkey ready solutions for different branches and markets. That would be just such a dream as you do with the orange wheel, basically.
Yeah, it's super cool. No, it's great to hear that, because it's another application that I've kind of just had on a piece of paper somewhere, being like, be applied to incineration, waste incineration, but I haven't really pursued that market at all. So it's great to hear that you are indeed going after that and making it happen, right?
And it's the same with fermenters, like biogas fermenters. There's going to be a huge demand to make use of those next years, and at least in the German market, because they have been subsidized by the government, so they get fixed income for the electric power they produce. And if the subsidies will not be paid, so I think it was like they have contracts with governments for 20 years. So those plants, those fermenters, they are there. And what do? They take methane gases and highly effective climate emissions out of the atmosphere, and that's why we all have interest in keeping those up and running. But the farmers running those and operating these systems, they say we're not doing it if it's not profitable. So if we pay on top for it, no way, we're not going to do that anymore. So, and that's another thing. The same with flex loads in the field of PV and wind power generation, which is at times a problem. And so we're thinking of helping to build modular, scalable solutions for that, because that's going to help us in Europe, especially to lower energy costs by far.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things about Europe is that it is like quite densely populated compared to other parts of the world, and there's quite integrated energy systems with various different already types of energy sources, biogas, biomass, PV, wind. So it creates, I think, lots of interesting opportunities when you think about sector coupling, as you brought up earlier. How Bitcoin mining goes into that.
We don't have, as you in Canada and Alberta, we don't have oil fields that we can just dig the shit out and sell it to whomever, whoever wants to pay for
Unlimited
it.
gas, too much gas, almost.
That's just not feasible here because we don't have the resources.
Yeah, but it creates interesting opportunities in that regard, I think, very much so.
Yeah.
It'd be great. I kind of want to double click on the incineration and the Bitcoin mining applied to energy systems later.
Yeah.
But before we get there, like when you mentioned the two parts of your business. One is helping Bitcoin companies to scale and innovate, and the other one is more traditional companies to understand Bitcoin's potential.
Yeah.
What kind of strategies have you invoked to help traditional business leaders warm up to it? And maybe just so I understand, like, are they coming to you, or are you going to them? How does it first? How does that first spark kind of ignited to create that kind of connection with these companies?
Yeah, that's been a bumpy road. First was the idea we just have to inform then what potential there is, telling about all these complex things I just talked about, and that doesn't really stick to them. I mean, if you I run this Bitcoin business innovation meetups here locally in the Cologne area for 2 years now, where we give talks and talk and we present special cases like this, energy things, like practical stuff like this one here from the real world, how that works, and basically only Bitcoiners come there.
Yeah, makes sense. I'm not surprised.
And what really helped with that was last year we founded the German Federal Bitcoin Association in Germany. I was one of the founding members, and my company was, and I got involved to it by running the Educational Council and the ESG Council. ESG is a topic here in Germany, or was at least. It's a kind of a scarecrow for Bitcoiners at times, I think. They don't like that topic, but I mean, the world doesn't care if you like it or not. The capital markets work like that, even though with or without legislation. Capital markets decide by where's demand and where not, and so Bitcoin has a really huge potential to help with ratings, and there's this regard. Like I could show that this is a kind, to me, as the superpower of Bitcoin, which is way underrated by Bitcoiners. These are the 17 sustainability goals of the UN. They are defined by different fields and topics, and all these are influencing in your ratings. If you're a company from a certain size, you're obliged to report such things. If you like or if you don't like. If you don't do that, no matter. But when you go to the bank and asking for credit, they will do because their clients are asking for it, and that defines how expensive or how costly your capital will be that you need from external sources. As easy as this. So we wrote. I started with some co-authors to define where does Bitcoin directly affect those factors in a positive way, because it is fairly sustainable if applied to such things. So we wrote 70, or basically it depends English or German. Here's the English version. 70 pages working paper dealing with the implications and opportunities regarding ESG and CSRD. So what means, where does Bitcoin has an impact on the disruptive things I talked before. We covered there different fields of how to work with Bitcoin and how you could use it as a ESG helper for your company, which helps you straight to lower that. So while working on that paper, I was visiting the eWorld Energy conference in Essen, which is one of the biggest of the industry in Europe, at least, and walking around there. And then there I shared these things. I didn't talk any topic about Bitcoin, except like we're working on a paper, a scientific work, because we found out that Bitcoin helps you in two ways. First, if you're in an energy extensive branch, it helps you to lower your operating costs. And on the other side, it helps you to improve your ESG ratings, which lowers capital costs and improves your capital risk if you apply it as a treasury or as a financial tool. And that was it. Nobody asked any questions about Bitcoin, but okay, really, can I have this paper? And that helps to lower operating costs. How? And even though it helps you to improve your ESG rating, I said, yes, it does. Read that paper. When will you have time? Could you come around to give a talk or something? Yeah. And that was it. Like with the garbage or waste incinerator, it was like we had a contact intern who proposed an improvement proposal to the company. Basically, they are really struggling. They have 3 revenue streams, basically. So they get paid for burning waste. They sell heat for district heating. And they have to sell the electricity they produce while operating. So it's heat and waste incineration is basically stable income streams, while electricity drops because those operations are 24/7, always full power. But the energy market, and they are obliged in Germany to sell their energy via the energy stock exchange in Leipzig. So it's a complex price building mechanics there. So, and because to more and more flexible energy production incoming from wind parks and growing PV, which is a huge problem in Switzerland and Austria as well, not only in Germany. So they get less and less and less for their energy production. So they have a real struggle to survive. And because of that, probably it's just guessing. It lasted only one day until this average worker giving this proposal was called by the CEO.
Oh, wow!
Asking, "Can we? This usually never happens. Yeah, it usually takes months." So, and I guess that could be a key for Bitcoiners helping their bosses or their employers to get in touch with Bitcoin technology. Don't talk about Bitcoin. Talk about operating costs and talk about ESG ratings and business model designs, basically. And that's enough. So we're talking here more about high performance computing applications for flex loads and improving the revenue stream and finding new revenue streams. Like,
yeah. I think that's really great approach. I mean, just getting the right hook to get the attention that's based in like numbers, financial implications. I think that certainly is the right approach. And I think just from my experience as well, I just, for whatever reason, I do feel like those where it's the physical aspect of Bitcoin mining getting physically integrated into sort of energy system where they can actually kind of like recognize where that, like how it ties in from a very tangible basis lands better from my own experience with these types of clients than when you start thinking about Bitcoin as a reserve asset, as a treasury function. Then they start looking at the price and the volatility, and they start being like, it doesn't work for this and this and this, so many risks. So I do feel like from my own experience, we here at Orange Wheel have also kind of like, we're keeping a bit of a broad approach to Bitcoin strategy for businesses, but right now we're really doubling down and focusing on the energy side and the turnkey solutions, because that's also where, as you said early on, right, the customer is the most important thing.
Exactly.
You want to make revenue, right? So you kind of have to meet the customers where they're at. Very cool.
And if it depends on the branch you're talking with. Like if you're into any energy extensive branch, like hospitals, like sanitaries, they have all high costs for heat production because they have to shower hundreds of persons or give them baths or whatsoever. In the field of the waste branch, they have these incinerators producing high costs and lower and lower revenue streams. It's a different topic. But if you talk to any other company holding high cash reserves, that's a different topic, basically. That's this one. I mean, this is there you can basically, and that was also, I'm not that much into that field, but that comes after. I mean, any company working with whatever part of Bitcoin technology, because they're using mining technology, basically even for greenhouses, greenhouse warming, or for these waste incineration, or for fermenters and biogas fermenters or whatsoever. They have, after that, they have Bitcoin in their company, and then they will have to think of, will we hold this Bitcoin, or will we just sell it straight away because we don't want to be able with that? And so they come with, then that's another no-brainer about asymmetrical risk allocation and whatsoever. If you compare that from the past 6 years, you'll probably find that Bitcoin outperforms any other asset. And if you have to deal with cash reserve, if you need a inflation hedge or whatsoever, that's basically another no-brainer then. But that's a complete different story. And it's like, who's the person you're talking with to decide what's the story that sticks to that person? What's the problem your customer feels in his life? What's the problem they see and they feel, not what's the problem that you see and think that he should know about.
Yes, totally agree. And that's where I think you're totally right. And some Bitcoin companies led by hardcore Bitcoiners are very ideologically driven, which I don't think is a bad thing in itself, but it doesn't always land well with pre-coiners out there and traditional business leaders.
Yeah.
Very cool. That 67 times is astonishing, right? The bond. And crazy that people are like, no, 60-40 portfolio. That's the standard investment in these government bonds. And yeah, terrible. Very cool. So let's maybe like double click a little bit on the current waste incineration. What state of development is this concept in right now, and where in the world is it starting to be deployed?
Frankly, we are now at the point where they will have to decide first internally if that's if they want to just for engage us for a feasibility study, which is not a huge thing. It's just that's going to be the next step, which takes us 2 days or 1 day on site with the technical engineers, all the data we need to make a serious return on investment calculations, and the economical viability to be able to decide if we use only Bitcoin mining or if we combine it with high performance computing applications like GPU processing rigs, which is a huge difference in investment. Like only Bitcoin will be 1 to 2 million basically in this installation. Combining it with GPUs will increase the investment case up to 30 million basically, which is
30.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Is it because the
But
chips are just so much more expensive, or is it also the environmental
yeah, the
change?
machines are way more expensive, for example, but you have even the way higher income streams. And it depends on what really is the heat part. Like they are running a district heating as well. So you have heat levels and stuff. So to keep in case. And what we're not knowing yet already really is how the flex load market works in Germany, how to get access there. But this is not really game changing, or this is not crucial for the first part. So but all this we have to go on site to figure that out, what's really the options there, and then we can and based from that on we will go. Right now it's a first time it's a political thing, because um, uh, those industries are, and even though in this proof of concept part, are run by what's that,
Private companies or municipalities?
communities,
Yeah.
and so that Bitcoin thing is really an issue to them. It's a political thing only, because if you are right now in Germany speaking about Bitcoin, you have oftentimes to deal with being put into the far right corner, which is a political game played by, which is, I mean, from my point of view, this is such stupid. You could say, okay, um, the right wings are all using cars, so car drivers, and it's a technology. There's no such stupid thing like that. You have to overcome this. So that's the reason why at the first place we keep Bitcoin small. They have to understand that this is the key ingredients, because without Bitcoin the whole thing is not capable to work. Because Bitcoin is that thing that allows you to control heat production, and heat production is the key driver of the economic viability of the whole thing. At least here, it's a different case if you deal with wind parks, and so that's a different case. You probably won't have the opportunity to sell the heat, at least at offshore farms and so on. That's a different case. But here it is a key game changer. Yeah, and if that works, we have all players at hand. So we are right now capable to deliver that basically turnkey solution. And if it's not that, we screen the market. We have basically 500 of 500 twin size operations in Germany still. So we have a couple of improvement proposals in the drawer.
Wow.
To play it out somewhere else.
Those are 500 waste incineration facilities?
Yeah, of exactly the same size. They're way more. The European market is really interesting for that. And I mean, we don't care if we kick off and start with waste incinerators, or with fermenters, or with chem parks that producing excess steam they have to pay for.
Yeah.
We could use any of.
Yeah, there's so much wasted potential energy all over in different forms all over Europe. It's really
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
having spoken to some of the ASIC manufacturers,
Yeah.
some of them are very excited about the European market. They think this is going to be the
Yeah.
next 3-4 years. It's going to be really about Bitcoin mining in Europe. So it's kind of decentralized, kind of
Yeah.
located setups.
And the wicked thing is, like, on the political side, this is many Bitcoiners are saying, hey, Bitcoin is not political. Yes, you're right. The thing is, you will need, that would be a complete game changer when politicians in Germany at least understand that Bitcoin is the key to a cost reducing energy revolution. No one will talk about far right or far left or whatsoever. This is such a, it's a no-brainer to me. It's a no-brainer. And the question is it wanted or is it not? I mean, we have lobbies profiting from the system as it is. Like, for example, with wind parks, it's like we are subsidizing wind parks when they stand still. So for flex load, that's for them. In the you could read these reports. They're published by the governments, by the you can download them, or we can link them. It's basically German speaking, but the dispatch market, when there is needed to turn them off because there's too much energy in the grid, risking blackouts, they get paid more when those windmills are not operating as when they do so.
Right. Incentive structure.
How do we pay this? But with taxes,
Yes.
not with energy prices. We do that already. We already have the highest energy prices worldwide in Germany, which is we are complaining about our economics and about high energy prices and how to do that. And at the same time, we're trying to prohibit Bitcoin and Bitcoin adoption and all these things without understanding that this is probably the key driver of many economical challenges that we have to overcome in another way, if not using this technology. Why wouldn't we? This is nothing you have to invent first and then maybe in 20 years it's up and running. No, it's an off-the-shelf solution.
Effectively now. Yeah. No, it's crazy. I totally agree on the political side. I think it does seem like Bitcoin adoption amongst politicians does originate on the right side of politics. I think it makes sense because it's stateless. It's at least diminishing the power of the state. It's a bit more freedom oriented, and like it or not, the right side of politics does tend to be, at least in ethos, smaller government and everything. But I think over time we're seeing this in certain jurisdictions where it becomes apolitical because then the moderate party starts understanding it, then the center left starts understanding it, and then eventually the left.
Yeah.
Right. But
and it's and I mean, getting back to this thing of this disruptive innovation and this guy here, Clayton Christensen. It's like what's happening now with Bitcoin companies, and that's so interesting. It's like they are starting with a niche solution, for example, for tax advisories. We have in Germany, we have had at the beginning of the year more than 5,000 tax consultancies being educated to specialize for Bitcoin corporates. So now you can imagine how many corporates in Germany from established branches are already holding Bitcoin in their balance sheets, which is not really a lot compared to the whole market. Alone in Cologne area, we have more than 30,000 workshops of craft businesses, really small business. So 5,000 is not so much, but it's way more than just one or two big ones. So there is a startup for preparing and operating all these tax things as if you held Bitcoin. If you receive payments and whatsoever, that's a huge workload to make your tax declarations then, even for businesses. So, and they started with that, and now all the tax advisories working with their software are asking, couldn't we use that as well for a different thing, for our basic operations, because it's so practical. It works 300,000 bookings in 1 minute, where we usually have to manually copy and paste them, and that's really, really costly. If we could adopt this software to our usual operations that have nothing to do with Bitcoin bookings, that would be a game changer. So that's exactly what Christensen says. It starts as a really unattractive end of the lower end of the established market, and those startups with their crappy, shabby niche solutions working their path up market and pushing the established up and up and up and up to the premium segment, and then they are out of the market. Happened to any branch at any time in history.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fascinating ones right now, of course, at the biggest scale, or at least most in the spotlight, are like the Coinbases of the world, right? Is Coinbase at one point going to be bigger than JP Morgan, right? I mean, not that I'm a big Coinbase fan, for sure, right? But like, you know what I mean? Like these kind of like the ones that have started, they started with Bitcoin, and now, or like maybe another one would be Bitpanda in the German speaking world, right? Like, I think it's great to see that, and it's nice to see that there's and I think as you brought up earlier, right? It's important that business leaders understand there's a risk to inaction and to ignoring this phenomenon that's happening, right? It's if you guys don't move, your lunch might be eaten without you guys recognizing it.
Yeah, and they cannot see it, and the same thing will happen to the. I mean, it's like taking the example. You may have heard of 21 Energy, for example, as They produce heaters, and they are now starting to develop a solution where they want to attract even no Bitcoiners, like normal guys. So people who just want cheaper heat and not wanting to deal with Bitcoin and mining operations and do I have to connect myself to a mining pool or a solo mining or whatsoever. And so what they figured out is that they will become a electric power provider as well. So they can sell just the heat to the consumers. So, and I'm a bit into this business of the electric power markets in Germany and who are the providers and how that markets work. They don't have it on their screen yet. And I bet that this is going to be only the beginning, and they will be pushed out of market because they cannot compete with it. These are just unfair advantages.
Yeah, it's exciting to see, right? Because even though it does feel, once you're inside Bitcoin, you do feel like the adoption rate is not progressing as fast as you might see in other technologies. Like there's a lot of resistance when it comes to money and the states involved, and there's inertia. But certainly I do sense that at least on the industrial side and on the commercial side and business adoption, like that's when it really starts going faster because you start having a competitive advantage, as you said. And then companies have to respond and react and adopt or die, right?
I mean, from my perspective as a business consultant, as a strategic management consultant, I mean, business owners and CEOs don't even understand basically what a business model design is. They don't have a language for it. They don't have a method, basically. And the methods they have are, at times they're working, but when the times the sea gets rougher, oftentimes it's not really well managed. And
they don't really train for disruption. They train for kind of standard operating.
Exactly. Yeah, for exploiting, not for exploring.
Certainly. So we're almost out of time, Peter. It's been a fantastic conversation. We've covered a lot of ground. We'll have to catch up again in the new year and go into some of these other topics we didn't have time to explore. Before we wrap up, a few just kind of rapid fire questions, just to answer in like 15, 20 seconds each. But do you believe that Bitcoin will be ESG positive? And I guess that's interpreted as like the general, interpret that as you may. Okay. within 5 years, ESG positive within 5 years. What do you think? Yes, no?
Yes, it is. And it's already beginning. I mean, just from the facts, it is already, at least in Germany. I mean, Kazakhstan, or when you're burning oil, no. But the question is not how do we judge what we do with energy instead of how we produce energy. And that's what is really polluting or not. And it's not only energy producing. I mean, sustainability, these are 17 fields. And Bitcoin improves, without the energy thing, at least 6 of them, if not more. And that is, by definition, environmental and ESG positive. Anyhow, I mean, governance, that's how you run your business. But even in that field, Bitcoin, and we have practical examples in our paper written down, how that works and where it already worked. So definitely, yeah.
Okay, next one. Energy companies will dominate the next wave of corporate Bitcoin adoption.
What do you mean by energy companies? I think energy consuming companies, not energy producing companies.
Okay, that's interesting. Maybe a few more.
That means branches and companies with high cost for energy use. If your cost structure and your business model design has an important part where energy plays a role, those will.
Fascinating. Last one. Most corporate innovation teams are wasting their time.
Yes, unfortunately, yes.
Any maybe 5 words on how that might change? But how can they change it so they're not wasting their time in the future?
First, ask why. If you can't answer the question, why a person is choosing your product over whatever choices this person has, you're on the wrong.
Certainly. And then maybe a quick follow-up to that before we go into the end session. What's one innovation principle that every leadership team should adopt going into 2026?
Same again. Ask yourself. Try to answer that question. If you weren't capable to answer the first question, under what circumstances a person is changing to your solution long-lastingly, that's your field of research. And if you find out, you will have the answers for the questions: what features my product will need, what wouldn't it need, and what's the customer language. so I can market it way more effective or efficient as I do or have done in the past. So that gives you answers to that thing. Where to strategically orient for the future? What happens when my technology is going to be obsolete because there's a new technology, and what comes then?
Yeah, love the customer centric innovation focus. It's really, I think, important to all businesses, including Bitcoin businesses. So as we wind up, Peter, maybe just provide the audience with some information on how to best get in touch with you or find information on UTXO Solutions. Where are you on social media?
You can find me on LinkedIn. That's probably best way. Or just scan the QR. You just find my profile or ask me for contact. Or here you come to our webpage, UTXO.solutions, if you like. And if you will, you find my email contact at LinkedIn as well. Write me a line. On our business page, you can book a schedule if you want.
Amazing.
For a quick online meeting. That's probably the easiest way.
Fantastic. No, it's been a fantastic discussion. I'm really looking forward to kind of continuing to engage with you in the new year, and also to follow the developments that you're doing in the Bitcoin mining space and seeing what we can learn and apply at Orange Wheel as well. And with that, I wish you, happy holiday season. Frohe Weihnachten. Is that how we say it in German?
Yeah.
Gute
Jo.
Rutsch in der neues Jahr auch. So it's been a pleasure talking with you today. I wish you a really good day.
Okay, same. Have a nice, have a nice day and happy Christmas and so on.